Saturn's rings look perfect. Bright, massive, untouchable. But that image is a lie. Because something is happening to Saturn right now. Something slow, something unstoppable. The rings are dying. Not in the distant future, now. And the disturbing part, we almost can't see it. From Earth, everything looks calm, but inside that system, there is constant motion. Collisions, breakdown, loss, and it gets worse. Every second, material is slipping away. Falling into Saturn, gone forever. No recovery, no reversal. Just a steady collapse, which means this isn't a stable structure. It's a system in decline, a process that has already begun and cannot be stopped. And here's the unsettling truth. We are watching it at the exact wrong time, late enough to see the damage, but too early to understand how it ends. Which raises a deeper question. What could destroy something this massive, this completely? For as long as we've observed Saturn, those rings have defined it. They look permanent, fixed, untouchable. But that's the illusion, and that's where the problem begins. Because the rings aren't a structure, they're a system, a fragile one. Made of countless fragments, ice, rock, dust, all moving independently, all barely held in place. From a distance, it looks perfect, balanced, almost designed. But up close, it's unstable, chaotic, and slowly breaking down. And it gets worse. Nothing is holding the rings together. No force is protecting them. No mechanism is restoring what's lost. Which means every collision, every shift, every tiny disturbance pushes the system closer to collapse. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Systems like this don't last. They fade. They thin out. They disappear. Which creates a contradiction we can't ignore. If the rings are this fragile, why are they still here at all? The rings of Saturn look enormous, and they are. They stretch across hundreds of thousands of kilometers, wide enough to swallow entire planets. But here's what doesn't make sense. They're almost nothing. In some places, just a few meters thick. That's it. Something so vast, reduced to something so thin. And that's where it becomes unsettling, because thin means weak, and weak systems don't survive. But it gets worse. This isn't a solid ring. It's a swarm. Countless fragments moving at extreme speeds, constantly colliding, constantly breaking apart. Every impact creates smaller pieces, and smaller pieces are easier to lose, which means the system is slowly destroying itself from the inside. And here's the part most people miss. This destruction isn't sudden. It's quiet, gradual, almost invisible, which makes it more dangerous, because by the time you notice it, it's already too late. You're not looking at something stable. You're looking at something already falling apart. The rings of Saturn aren't just unstable. They're being drained right now. And there's nothing stopping it. because the force behind it is Saturn itself. Gravity is constantly pulling on every particle. Every fragment is being dragged inward. Slowly, but without pause. And that alone would be enough. But it gets worse. Saturn's magnetic field stretches far beyond the planet. It reaches into the rings, interacting with tiny particles, altering their paths, destabilizing their orbits, pulling them out of position, and then they fall into the planet below. Scientists call it ring rain. But that name hides what's really happening. Because this isn't a cycle, there's no return. Once the material falls, it's gone forever. And the scale is hard to ignore. Billions of kilograms are lost every single year. Every year. No recovery, no replacement. Which turns the entire system into something else entirely. Not a structure, not a feature, but a process. A slow collapse that cannot be reversed. And that leads to one unavoidable question. If nothing is stopping this, how long can the rings actually survive? The rings of Saturn are disappearing, and scientists know how fast. Every year, billions of kilograms of ice and rock fall into Saturn. Slowly, steadily, relentlessly. At this rate, the rings could vanish in about 100 million years. That sounds long, but it's nothing compared to Saturn itself, over 4 billion years old. Billions of years, and the rings will last just a tiny fraction of that, which is shocking. Because this means Saturn's rings aren't ancient. They didn't form with the planet. They are a recent phenomenon, already decaying. We are seeing Saturn at a very narrow window, a fleeting moment in cosmic history. Not before, not after, now. And here's the disturbing thought. The most iconic feature of the planet is temporary. Its beauty, its defining feature, will disappear completely. And it gets worse. We don't fully know why the rings formed so late, or why they still exist. Which leaves one dark possibility. There's more happening here than we understand. Saturn isn't the only planet with rings. Jupiter has faint ones. Uranus has arcs. Neptune barely shows any. But none compare. None are as massive, as bright, as dominant. Saturn's rings are extraordinary. And yet, they are temporary, a fleeting phase in the life of the planet. And we are alive to witness it, right now. Not before, not after, which makes this moment rare and fragile. Because one day, these rings will vanish, completely. Saturn will remain, but the defining feature will be gone. And that's the uncomfortable truth. You are not seeing Saturn as it always was. You are seeing it at a precise moment in cosmic time. A moment that will never repeat. A beautiful system already collapsing. And eventually, nothing will remain. The planet we know will survive. But the rings, the iconic rings, will be lost to time. Forever.